how can we change our thinking about money and prosperity in such a way that we're thinking about it in a more healthy way, and such that we're not limiting ourselves from the prosperity that's coming to us, or that is already ours, and we're just not fully recognizing it. When you think of money, it's not just green pieces of paper or money in a bank account or a price on a price tag. I think it's helpful. A healer that I had named Anita Devine always said, money is an energy exchange. It is simply an energy exchange. And before money, there was bartering. And, it's a quantified act of generosity, exchanging money. It's an act of reciprocity. And it's the energy of abundance. So when you pay at the cash register, don't think of it as a transaction, but think of it as an exchange of value, okay? And it helps to think of this triangle. Not that I'm placing money on top because it's higher than the others, but I'm just doing it out of convenience. But just think about this triangle where money is here at the top. And then it's sitting on this layer called prosperity. And prosperity includes not only economic prosperity, money, but prosperity includes well-being. It includes happiness. It includes health. So you can be prosperous regardless of your bank account balance. I think that's really important to take away from today. So that's the middle layer of the triangle. So money, prosperity. And then beneath it all is this huge platform called abundance. And abundance is a universal law. It just is. It happens. And it exists for everyone. And when you look at it this way, you don't have to focus so much on the numbers, but you can focus on the feeling tones that are created when you say prosperity and abundance. Let's focus on abundance for a second. So money and prosperity are expressions of abundance, which is a universal law. And when it's a universal law, that means it's not just out there available to people. It's out there available to you, for you, like anything else that's a God quality that we talk about. Think about love. It's not for someone else, and it's not something that when someone else has it, there's less for you. It is there for you fully. So the more we look for abundance, the more we see. And I can talk about any kind of science. I can talk about any field of study where the longer they study it, the more they see. It used to be when I was a kid, I thought, okay, Saturn has 9 moons. But now we know that Saturn has 82 moons. But those moons were always there. It's just that we couldn't see them yet, right? So it is with abundance. There is so much abundance there. And as we continue to get more intelligent, both scientifically and spiritually, we will expose more of that abundance, and we will learn how to tap into it. I believe we will tap into the abundance of answers to global warming. I believe we will tap into abundance of answers for the pandemic. So you can think about abundance in this expanded way. You may remember that Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, said, "The world is crammed full of health." That's one of my favorite sayings. It's just this feeling. It's this feeling you get of the world is overflowing with health. And so she was evoking the law of abundance. So God's world is crammed full of health. It's also crammed full of time. It's crammed full of talent. It's crammed full of money. It's crammed full of well-being. It's crammed full of answers, right? So that is abundance, and that abundance is yours. So back to thinking about this triangle, money, prosperity, abundance. Prosperity and money just being evidence of the law of abundance at work in your life. Eric Butterworth has this to say about prosperity in his book, Spiritual Economics. And Eric Butterworth he was a very popular Unity author. He still is. He passed on a few years ago. And in his book, Spiritual Economics, he said, prosperity is a way of living and thinking, and not just of money, not just of things. But poverty is a way of living and thinking, and not just about money, and not just about things. So he's saying there's a mindset of prosperity and there's a mindset of poverty, whether you're talking about money or you're talking about well-being, whether you're talking about just abundance in general. Remember the saying that we pretty much see what we are looking for. I've said that often. And so I think that if we see through the lens and the mindset of poverty, then that's what we get, or that's what we don't get, right? I woke up yesterday morning. I was bummed because the freezer had been open for 5 hours. I woke up early to get an ice pack for my my finger. I've got some tendonitis, and I left the freezer open partially. And when I came back down later, I was just bummed out, thinking, "Oh, things are going wrong and things are going bad." And then I realized the prosperity of all the things in my freezer. Nothing had been lost. It was just kind of melted a little bit. It was fine. And so I realized I was looking through the lens of lack instead of the lens of prosperity. And then I looked around me at some of the clutter and these things that I've been meaning to unclutter in my life. And I realized I can't look at these things negatively because I've collected certain things into my life because I love them. And when I love them, I become more abundant in them. So I began to look at artwork and drums and notes and journals as this is my abundant collection, right? I just need to organize it, right? And if I want to throw certain things away, that's my prerogative. But I want to look at it as abundance before I look at it as clutter, right? I love books. I love physically going through the book instead of getting an ebook. So I'm going to need to buy 2 more bookcases, but I love books. So I become abundant in books. That's a thought to think about. What you love, you become more abundant in. So we can tap into prosperity by simply changing our minds and our thoughts about abundance. You might say, change your thinking and change your prosperity, right? So let's think for a moment about your prosperity. And if you have a pen, you might want to just take a couple of notes. Think about a blessing in your life, or several blessings in your life. Think about a talent that you have. Maybe a talent that you haven't used in a while. Think of the treasures in your life that aren't necessarily money. Think about something that's abundant in your life, perhaps friendships, perhaps knowledge, perhaps wonderful memories. And finally, think about what spiritual gifts have already been given to you. They could be gifts that you were born with, or gifts that you have learned, or maybe it's a desire to do better, a desire and a passion for something. Maybe it's an intention for what you want to do. So these are ways of connecting with our prosperity consciousness. This is prosperity, having nothing to do with money. And as Eric Butterworth says, if prosperity is a way of living and thinking, how can we break our negative cycle in terms of thinking about our own prosperity and not thinking about our own seeming lack of prosperity? How can we get away from dissing ourselves in terms of prosperity and looking through the lens of prosperity instead of limitation? Well, Eric Butterworth, once again, the author of Spiritual Economics, calls this this lack and limitation thinking, he calls it minusing yourself instead of plussing yourself. So what are all the ways that you minus yourself instead of plus yourself? And I thought about a few of the ways that I minus myself in terms of prosperity, and here are a few that I jotted down. Some of these may resonate with you. Here's one. I don't deserve to be prosperous. There isn't enough to go around. I missed the peak of the market. I missed my opportunity with X, Y, or Z. Oh crap, I have to pay that bill. That's lack and limitation thinking. I'll never be able to afford to retire here. Or perhaps it's I'll never be able to retire at all. And if someone is successful, that's not me, then there's less to go around for me, right? So those are some of the ways that I minus myself. Here's one more. I'll never be able to afford that, okay? So what ways are you minusing yourself with your thoughts? So instead, we must plus ourselves and essentially emit a new vibrational signal, as Esther Hicks would put it, put out a different vibratory frequency and match the vibration of prosperity. So how do we do that? I have some suggestions. One way, Emma Curtis Hopkins says, Emma Curtis Hopkins says, praise everything and everyone. Especially when someone has prosperity. How do you feel when you watch someone that just got handed $100 million, right? How do you feel when it's a friend of yours? How do you feel when it's a competitor of yours? A relative of yours, right? So praise them, and it can be life-changing. Praise them, because when you praise them, you raise yourself to the energetic vibration of their receiving. When you don't praise them, you put yourself in this frame of, well, they got, that means I am not going to get, right? Because there's not enough. And then turn some of that praise onto yourself. Praise yourself because you are enough always. You are enough always. I was also thinking about, speaking of wealth, I was thinking of, instead of thinking about Jeff Bezos, think about Mackenzie Bezos, right? Jeff Bezos has a lot of wealth and Mackenzie Bezos has a lot of wealth, but she gives away her money by the hundreds of millions of dollars at a time. So I just pictured Mackenzie Bezos giving away these funds and it raining down in the form of abundance for the world, right? And that, I think that's her objective, is to give it away such that it can make the world a better place for you and for me. And I love that. That's certainly a way I can praise a multi-billionaire. And that's becoming more in vogue nowadays for billionaires to do that. So let's praise that energy. Next, here's a very important one. This is a very important way of thinking of money as a sacred exchange of energy. This is called the law of circulation. You may have heard of it. And basically what it means is what you give comes back to you multiplied abundantly. That may sound familiar. Like all other sacred energy exchanges, there must be giving and receiving. So think about our mental, physical bodies, like during the meditation. We were centering on the heart chakra because everybody knows that the heart chakra is a place of love. And whether you believe in chakras or not, you know that loving is a thing that is healthy when we can give and receive love. Communication is a thing that's healthy when we can both listen and communicate. Our bodies depend on breathing in and breathing out right? David Bruner, who some of you know, says this, and let's try this together. Take a breath and hold it. Okay. If you don't exhale, okay, you can exhale, right? But if you don't exhale, think about that's unhealthy. And it's unhealthy in all ways. It's unhealthy for you to do that with your money. You know, what if we did that with our money, just inhaled and never exhaled, right? It has to follow the laws of nature for all other things. There has to be circulation, right? So in sacred circulation, just as our blood and our breathing circulate, so must our money. It's an exchange. And when we circulate, once again, we believe these gifts are returned to us multiplied abundantly. And that's why we say it every Sunday, because it's a law. And so I say this, wherever you get spiritually fed, wherever you find joy, whether it be the PBS, Heart of the Valley, the SPCA, Unity San Jose, wherever you get spiritually fed, academically fed, give back to it. So you have this reciprocity of the heart, this energetic exchange. Whether it be your alma mater or your favorite charitable organization, stretch. Give something that feels like reciprocity, and the universe will answer in kind. You know, there's this saying that someone gave, oh, I gave $5 to this organization because that's nothing to me. But if it's nothing to you, then is it an exchange that's truly sacred? There was a homeless person standing out in front of Whole Foods the other day, and I could have given them $5, or I could have given them $20, because that $20 could have changed things for them. They could have done so much more with it. And so it was a little bit more of a sacrifice to me, and it felt good to do that rather than to say, well, I'm just going to give them these stale Cheetos because those are nothing to me. You feel that, the difference in reciprocity? So whatever you give, do it in such a way that you define as a sacred energy exchange, right? When it comes to churches, we talk about tithing, and some people do tithe. That means 10% of income. But each one of us has to figure out what is a spiritual sacred energy exchange for us. And it may be $5, but maybe it's $5 every month, every month, every month, consistent, like a heartbeat, consistent, like we breathe. And that becomes a beautiful thing. So next, here's something else I learned about generosity and tithing from Reverend David Bruner. And this is true no matter what you're doing with, let's say, writing checks or paying bills or sending a love offering somewhere or a donation. The next time you write a bill, the next time you write a check, think of it as a sacred exchange, and put sort of a symbol in the notes field that only you understand, right? You can maybe put 3 letters like BAA. I just made that up this morning. Blessings all around. Blessings all around. I used to put a little heart on the check, but then I thought, they're going to think I'm silly putting a little heart on the check to PG&E. They're going to think, But put something that you know what it means, so it can be more meaningful to you, because you know that if you give out of resentment, even if it's paying a bill, if you give out of resentment, what does that say to the universe? If you resent paying for your electricity, if you resent paying for your TV, if you resent every bill you pay, what does that do? It's almost like thinking about the energy of unforgiveness, right? Except it's the energy of resentment. So send your bills with this energy of love, and write a note. Choose your acronym. Blessings all around. Peace, love, and blessings. PLB. Whatever you want to do. So that is the law of circulation. So I hope that this thinking, seeing things with a different lens, has helped break up some of the energetic vibration that talking about money and prosperity carries. Let's go inner for a moment. And I'd like to say this prayer that's also an affirmation. I'm grateful for all that I have. I'm grateful for all that I give and all that I receive. I'm grateful for all that I have, for all that I give, and for all that I receive. I'm tapping into my abundant supply, and it begins with my source, the God of my understanding, as my supply. I trust in that. I trust in that abundance and that there will always be enough. And I am an energetic being, so I call in the energy of not just money, but prosperity in all of its languages, in all of its forms. I call in the prosperity of well-being. I call in the prosperity of health. I call in the prosperity of wisdom and love and generosity, friendships and relationships. I'm prosperous in all of these things, and I invite even more prosperity to come into my life right now. I'm open. My hands are open to receive these blessings, to receive this harvest. And it's time to realize that God's grace extends to all realms, and it extends to me more than it extends, or as much as it is anywhere. God's grace is there for me as much as it has been for anyone, for anywhere in time. That's the way it works. So I claim this. I know it's true for everyone. I allow it. I let it be. And so it is.
Just before you say something you can't take away, take a breath and let it out. Try to think about what would love do now. Wondering if you should cross that line for good. Whatever you decide, ask yourself from inside, what would love do now? Everything is either an act of love or a cry for love. That's why for love we try for love. In the end, that's all we know that's real. Whether right or wrong, does it matter just as long as you let your heart decide? Ask yourself from inside, what would love do now? Everything is either an act of love or a cry for love. That's why for love we die for love. In the end, that's all we know that's real. Whether right or wrong, doesn't matter just as long as you let your heart decide. Ask yourself from inside, what would love do now? What would love do now? What would love do now? Before you cross that line for good, What would love do? Now before you say something you can't take away, what would love do? Now before you beat up on yourself, what would love do now? What would love do now?
Now let's just take a deep breath together, breathing in and letting it out. And one more time, deep breath together. Just letting all the tension go when you breathe out. Closing our eyes. Being aware of any tension that we're carrying from anything. Feeling it dissolve as we come more into the present moment. As we get more comfortable in our bodies, let's just feel a sense of balance all the way from the top of our head, down our neck, the way we're sitting with our feet grounded on the floor. Feeling a gentle white light, a grounding cord as it goes into the earth. Imagine ourselves seated on a blanket, our favorite color, surrounded by the lush green forest. There's no breeze. You can hear the soft chirping of birds. The weather is calm and perfect. You're in a comfortable place. You're in awe of your surroundings. And let's also call in whatever allies or guides that we want to. Let's call in source energy of the one spirit, calling in the angels, any ancestor spirits. We can feel the presence of the great ascended masters. We can feel the presence of the saints and sages, feeling safe. And if we want to surround ourselves with pets or people, we can do that too in this quiet space that we've established, that is ours, that is our sanctuary. And as we continue to breathe, feeling the energizing breath moving its way, we can feel the energetic vibration of this breath, as well as the light of the one vibration moving its way through our body, melting away further any tension, knowing that right here, everything is here that we need. And we let that feeling of supply and source just generate itself, and we feel that feeling in our belly, our power center, as we feel more grounded and protected and provided for. opening our metaphysical hands to let in the blessings and let in any guidance, any wisdom which is needed at this time. As we continue to be aware and be in awe of this lush green forest around us, and how much life and beauty, how many miracles there are around us and within us. Let's just rest in the silence for a few moments as we soak in the gratitude, as we accept the blessings for which we are so grateful. And gently opening our eyes, let's observe the color, the deep color green that's on this screen. That's the healing color of the heart chakra. Let's let this color just bathe us in its glowing light as we breathe from the heart space, opening our hearts like a flower in the midst of all this, feeling the nature of reciprocity, the nature of giving and receiving, the nature of healing ourselves and healing others from this heart space. And so it is.
We are creating a world that works for everyone. Yes, we're amazing, and we've just begun to feel the power and freedom to be who we came here to be, as we discover each other and celebrate humanity. We are creating a world that works for everyone. Yes, times are changing. It's a love revolution as we are walking together. Love is leading the way through the fields of compassion to a world that works for everyone, to a world that works for as we are walking together. Love is leading the way through the fields of compassion to a world that works for everyone, to a world that works